Can we say that the cancellation of the 1993 elections was the result of a tribalistic leader? What role can we say women played in the struggle for June 12? I am Mary Anacon, and this is Plus Politics. Now, June 12 is regarded as an important day in the democracy of Nigeria. What is today? Regarded as the freest election in the history of Nigeria, took place on this day in 1993. However, it was cancelled by the ruling military dictator at the time, Babangida. A lot of conspiracy theories have surfaced over the years concerning why he did this. So I asked the question, can we safely say the cancellation was a result of ethnicity? Joining me in the studio to discuss this, I have two legal practitioners, Emmanuel Umoran and Raymond Nkanebe. It's good to have you join us, gentlemen. Happy Democracy Day is in order.
Well, happy Democracy Day, that's a new...
It's a new I mean, in Nigeria, we always add happy to everything.
Happy to everything.
Yes. Even when we're not happy. So let's talk about the essence of June 12, the significance. We spent all day talking about the man, you know, who fought the fight, the man who was supposed to be president. He's gone, he's not with us anymore. But I'm just wondering, if he were to be alive, could the story have changed? Would we have known if he would have been? Would we be saying today is Democracy Day? Would we be celebrating the struggle, or could the story have been different? I'll start with you.
Well, it will be difficult to predict.
I know.
I'll be reading the tea leaves. But I need to say something. A lot of the people who we have to distinguish between the man Abiola and the issue of June 12. Abiola was a man who transcended this country. He tried to be in every part of this country. He had numerous wives from almost every part of this country. But he also tried to reach out to people. He was one of the few people that planned to be president in this country, but never became a president, unfortunately so. Because when I read there was this book in 1993, prior to the election, I read, that was when I got sold to Abiola. After the debate on NTA, and Tofa Blonder did not know the price of petrol, I found a book, a collection of his speeches, and I saw that Abiola was really, really a man that knew his onions. He was a rich man, but never forgot his roots. Never forgot he was a poor man. He thought of, when he spoke about sachet milk, that pig felt was a poor man's thing, and the other milk, cowbell, came in with sachet, and all the poor people, everybody started using just sachet, and today everybody has gone to sachet.
Exactly.
So then his speech about NNPC, there were so many things that because Abiola was very well educated, and he was a man that demanded education from his children. He demanded it. Every child of Abiola while he was alive must be a graduate. Now, taking this into, also with the background, the previous Abiola that now became the politician, the businessman Abiola and the politician Abiola are not you could distinguish them, definitely. Because as an ITT man, what he did to Decca Records, did to Fela and all those was there. But in coming into politics, by 1993, Abiola totally changed. Who knows? Like the Awolowo, he may have been the best president Nigeria never had. That's on that. But you see, I also need to say something. I have done work all over this country. In Maiduguri, because the narrative seemed to have changed. Because when the struggle came, it now became, I was in Lagos, it now became like a Yoruba thing. But the guys in Maiduguri and Sokoto who voted for Abiola, who went out in Kano, in Uyo and Akwa Ibom, in the government house, NRC lost. The governor was the NRC governor. SDP won.
Yeah, here Rivers was the only state where Abiola didn't win elections in the South, yes.
So it wasn't the Yoruba thing. It was the time Nigerians came out, because Abiola had reached everybody. University students, Abiola was paying school fees for several people. The day my father became a judge, there was a letter from Abiola congratulating him. And they never met before. You understand? So that was one man. So all the judges in Akwa Ibom in that year went out and stood out with their walking sticks and made sure they voted. So it was a unique person. I don't know how he would have governed. Maybe the pools and the powers in Nigeria, the establishment may have turned him to something else. But Abiola had enough strength of character to have withstood those establishment forces. But I also know too that people like Professor Wole Soyinka did not support Abiola because Abiola was Yoruba, or because they supported the June 12th struggle because of the injustice. They weren't friends with Abiola, even though they were from Egba together. They were not friends with Abiola. But when the injustice came, they said, no, this cannot happen. So that is...
Okay, so interestingly, you're saying that this has nothing to do with ethnicity.
No.
But over the years, Raymond, lots of leaders have come and gone and have not paid attention to that struggle. So it had gradually, somewhat shrunk into a Southwest struggle. It was no longer the big picture of, and now today we see that we are divided along lines of ethnicity and religion, and political players or actors are taking advantage of those lines that have become broad.
Well, let me start by saying I agree with you that until President Muhammad Buhari made that deft move last year in choosing to honor the memory of the man Abiola, other leaders have, for one reason or the other, decided to gloss over the issue of June 12th. I know that before then, we've seen few southwestern states celebrating June 12th. In fact, even declaring public holidays. At least 2 states in the southwest were doing that. So as at then, it appeared it's actually just a Yoruba affair. But when you travel back in time and when you read up in the whole June 12th story, you will see that it wasn't a regional affair. Like my colleague here just said, the man Abiola was such a politician that bestrode both wings of the Niger. We've not seen a politician who was as popular as he was, as was indicated in the voting patterns of that election. You agree with me that since after that election, the voting patterns have always revealed the divide along ethnic and religious lines in the country. So I wouldn't agree that it was it's an ethnic issue. I think it was a pan-Nigerian struggle which President Muhammad Buhari saw that window and sought to say, okay, let us lay this issue to bed once and for all.
But do you think that he was also some sort of an opportunist?
Yes, I was coming there. I was coming there. You see, earlier today, I published an article where I reflected on as much as this. I said, yes, he's a politician, and what do politicians do? They play politics. So I think it's on the part of a good politician to know where there is a window of a political mileage. Then you try to seal that and perhaps maybe kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So while Buhari might be seen to have pacified the interests of the Yoruba West ahead of the 2019 election, then on the other hand, the whole June 12th struggle was a national issue, which he also, many persons who agree that, okay, he was playing politics, but then it was in the larger interest of the nation. Talking
about the larger interest of the nation, we're looking at it not as a struggle, but it was for good governance. It was a struggle for good governance. It was a struggle for the people to get dividends of democracy. Sure. And now it has been placed as Democracy Day. Sure. And I'm wondering, looking at all the things that I listened to, some of his speeches, I listened to his debates, the one you made reference to. I've even looked at a book he wrote a book about him, about his speeches. Yes, I've looked at that. Yeah. Every single thing in that book, we're still experiencing it today. So has there been any progress in Nigeria's life, both in election-wise and good governance? Can we really say we've had any form of good governance? If the same things that Abiola and Tofa were advocating for are the same things we're still grappling with in the 21st century, what changes have we made so far?
You see, what really beats me in all this is that the Southwest Intelligentsia have not done an intellectual analysis of June 12th. We just looked at the euphoria of it, or the physical side of it, not the intellectual side. The thinking behind June 12th, the movement, it carried everybody. It wasn't just Abiola. There had been the work of Shehu Musa Yaradua. I recollect in 1991, I was going to somebody at his saying, and Yaradua was in the Beatles campaigning for a councillor in his saying. That was how far Yaradua went. And that movement, that together, that and Abiola's massive, you recollect, when St. Dominic's was launching their altar, Don Echebet was supposed to be the chief launcher, and Abiola wasn't invited, a Muslim. Yeah. He came into the place and said, "What do you mean? I'm your neighbor. Yeah. You didn't invite me?" And accused Don, "Oh, is this how you are?" They were friends. And Abiola donated one of the largest donations then to St. Dominic's. That was a unique person. You understand? That was a Nigeria, every part of us. Yes, there were the part that people did not like, the law for women and all those, the Garulos part. But the African big man was like that. They used marriage to reach out to families and assist. Families of very poor people, they would go, once you are Abiola in-law, you have access and all those. Those were there. But we have not really, there's so much we need to discuss about that, because if we did, we wouldn't be going back to the mess we are finding in our elections. What is wrong with option A4? Why have we not continued with it? It showed exactly how we voted. The first time in this country that the North in Kanu, they voted for a Yoruba man. In River State, they voted for a Kanu man. In Akwa Ibom, they voted for a Yoruba man. That was Nigeria. That was how we should watch football those days. You never bothered where the Odegbami was from. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved Rashidi Yekini. Everybody loved Aruna Ilerika. You understand? We all loved, that was how we grew up in this country. But unfortunately now, you're even looking at football match and people are saying, look, this one went to carry Muslims, this one went to carry Christians, this one went to carry Northerners. It's so unfortunate. Yeah. And I thought, and I urge that the Nigerian leadership should try. President Buhari doesn't have a lot many years to live more, but we pray God keeps him for as long as possible. But this is last term. Can he try and do everything possible to bring Nigeria together? Nigeria is a beautiful country. I have worked in every state in the North. The North is beautiful. It's unfortunate. Look, I say it. I was in Gujba, in Damatru, when I went to see the Commissioner of Police in 1996. The Commissioner of Police had only one policeman guarding his house. In 1996, there was no crime out there until politicians came and rallied Boko Haram and brought thugs into governance and started taking state money and turning it into personal estate. That is when all this mess started. The North was peaceful. If you go during the Salah, or when they are fasting, after close of fast, everybody walked into the government house. In Kano, you walk into the government house. In Kaduna, same thing. Even if it was a military, then they were military, and even if they were not Southerners, you walked in, took water, did your ablutions, and went to pray. But now you can't do that anymore.
So,
and sorry, let me also say, one of the best nightclubs I went to in this country was in Maiduguri, Chescoan. Honestly.
Okay. Let's go back to the electioneering process, because we cannot make reference to June 12 without looking at our electoral, system.
Sure.
And he mentioned something about the option A4. We've moved from that to what we have right now, and it's still not working. The elections are being marred by all kinds of violence, irregularities, and we've literally distorted the whole electoral calendar. So I asked my previous question, have we not learned anything from what happened to us in June 12?
Well, I think the answer is just anybody's guess. First off, two cardinal issues are worthy of being identified from the whole Abiola and June 12 struggle. The one is the issue as to national unity. Like I spoke before in the voting pattern, we saw Northerners, Southerners voting for Northerners, Northerners voting, it was, you understand. Then the second issue was electoral transparency. Up until today, we still acknowledge that that election was the freest and fairest ever held in the history of this country. Very unfortunate. So taking it one after the other, on the issue as to the transparency in our electoral process is very, very unfortunate. Very, very unfortunate, I must say. If after 26 years, and with all the advancement in technology, then we are still looking back at an election that was held in 1993 as the model of elections, then it speaks volumes of how far we've retrogressed in our advancement of our electoral process. As I speak with you, we have at least 800 pre-election cases in court.
My goodness. And
at least 736 election petition cases in various tribunals. If I should tell you the consequence it has on the economy, you might not appreciate it. You understand? But we say these things lightly and we don't tend to appreciate the consequences. The presidential election, as we speak, is being contested in court. And for the PDP, they say, as far as they are concerned, that they are yet to recognize the president as the fifth democratically elected president, because his victory is still contested in court. So I don't think we've made any progress. If for anything, we've actually retrogressed to the extent that we are still looking back at that election as the model or standard of election. So we have a lot to do to see how we could make our electoral process more, win it off of electoral malpractices, and also reduce the litigious aspect of our elections.
Pastor Morin, why do you think it's so difficult? Because we make it seem like it's rocket science. I see many... South Africa, we would say that South Africa is way ahead of us, and I don't know why we do that when we conveniently say we're the giant of Africa. But then when it comes to other things, we say, oh, we can't compare ourselves to South Africa. A tiny country like Senegal shamed us with the elections. Yeah. It's literally shamed us right in our faces. Why is it so difficult for Nigeria to be able to, kind of get a grasp of how to get free, fair, and credible elections, and do it without having to have fights and killings and all of these things and then end up in court?
You see, when you asked, and my colleague was responding, I remembered how Jaconde's free education schools were called chicken houses. But children went to school. I recollect the way the 1993 election was described. They said it was too mundane, was just anyhow. You have to go and stand and do all those. But if we had looked at that election and seen it as a model, it was something that we would have sold to the world. Like Professor Ransom Kuti started this primary health care in Idi Araba. And that is what Nigeria has abandoned it. But the whole world is using it now to save its poor neighborhoods. We would have developed that June 12th election, that type of election, with that reduced violence, that you knew the winner at once. You didn't have to go, even the blind would know, the deaf would know who won. And there will be no need to go to contest. Because somebody will ask you, where are you going to? They stood there, everybody saw you. You understand? So, but what did we do? Our intellectuals or our professors, our elites, or whatever we call ourselves, said, oh, no, that is too crude. But that is the truth about us. And like the Bible says, the truth shall set you free. So we must look at ourselves and ask ourselves honest questions. We have had elections where you have raised issues. Now the elections, from elections you go to court, you go to, people now talk of corruption, of the corruptive influence of politics on the judiciary, the corruptive influence of politics in governance, everything, it's like a war. And spoils of war are spoils. They are not what you take home. They are spoils. You use them and you get drunk on them, you binge on them. That is what is happening. How do you explain how a member of House of Representatives gets to Abuja and is paid 60-something million for inconvenience allowance?
It's his welcome allowance.
How do you explain that? You see, professors of law, professors of medicine have not seen 6 million in their lives in one go. And for somebody winning an election, why would people not kill for that?
How can we achieve good governance? Gentlemen, one sentence each, because we don't have time. How can we achieve good governance? Because if we cannot clearly chart a course to getting good governance one way or the other, then we have failed June 12. We failed the people who, the men and the women who fought, died, who shed their blood, the people who were bitten in the streets. We have failed this particular, struggle. So how do we achieve good governance? Raymond, I'll start with you.
Well, for me, good governance does not happen in a vacuum. It is a function of processes. It is a function of layered and institutionalizing processes, and then you have checks and you have checks on these processes. To be able to put in place efficient structures, efficient institutions that function independent of themselves without undue interferences from any quarters, then I think we can begin to drive at that process where we can say, okay, we have good governance. What we have now is perhaps I might call it ad hocism, or what some people might call anyhowness. So we have to put those structures in place, get those institutions so they can operate and drive themselves independently.
Dr. Moran, what do you think we can do to achieve this? Because it seems like it's a mirage. The closer we get to it, the farther it is away from us.
I'm sorry to say, I'm in my 50s. I shed tears for this country because one day I woke up, I was reading at 3 a.m. and it just occurred to me that God blessed us with oil. For 60 years, we wasted oil. Oil is going out of fashion. Governance has become motor park arrangement. It's just, I don't know what to say. But I'm being honest with you. Because I saw good government. I went to school when, I always tell people, my father never spent up to 3,000 naira sent me to school, from primary 1 to law school to becoming a lawyer. So, what is going to happen? 3,000 naira cannot take you through a round of drinks with your friends.
It can only take you to work and back.
The economy is, look, the first time I went to England, I was a big boy in England. As a young boy, 18-year-old, because the naira in my pocket, I could change it on the streets of London. Today.
Let's try that now. Well, I want to say thank you, Mr. Emmanuel Umoran, legal practitioner, Raymond Kanibe, legal practitioner. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I mean, we're almost at a loss for words. This isn't the kind of Nigeria that we want. But we'll take a short break. These gentlemen are not going anywhere. When we come back, we'll talk about the true dividends of democracy. We're celebrating Democracy Day today. What do we really mean when we say Happy Democracy Day? We'll be right back after the break. Stay with us.